Validators, thank you for all love and support. I appreciate you all. This is amazing. This is a bold revelation, an expose in the UN Security Council. We have been saying that the West are the reason to which we are seeing these activities in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And we saw recently the UN, the false accusation they also brought against Captain Ibrahim Traore, because he's trying to inculcate patriotism into his citizens. So they have to find a means of lying to the world that he's arming the young ones. But according to the Russian diplomat Dmitry Polyanky, Paris is responsible for all the terrorist activities that we are seeing in Africa, in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, because of her is failing to have control over the people. That France is the one sponsoring these terrorists to destabilize the nation so that it can cling to its colonial rule over these nations. France is losing big time. We've seen their industry shutting down. Their economy is in bankruptcy. According to the Russian diplomat, France is a neo-colonial power. France is doing everything possible to still keep Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso under its control. France is losing. France has lost. They have kicked France out, and ever since they left, France has never known peace, just three nations.
President, we thank Vladimir Ivanovich Voronkov and Natalia Meshevna German for the substantive reports on the activities of the units headed by them. We highly appreciate the work of the UN Directorate of Counterterrorism and the Executive Directorate of the Counterterrorism Committee of the UN Security Council. Russia is ready to provide them with all-round support in the future so that the relevant mandates are carried out effectively and in the interests of all member states. Today's meeting is an excellent opportunity for an all-round analysis of the situation in the area of fighting terrorism, identifying problematic places, and determining concrete steps to eliminate them. We have carefully studied the UN Secretary-General's report on the threats posed by the ISIS. We share his assessment that the threat posed by this international terrorist organization is not diminishing. The group is adapting to the new conditions, including changing the geography of its activities. Its activities are increasingly shifting to Africa. The report notes that the ISIS is using a combination of factors to consolidate their presence there, namely political instability, weak state governance, and armed conflicts. However, it is obvious to us that this picture is not complete. A key element has fallen out of it again: the role of Western countries' interference in the internal affairs of the states of the region. The events of the past decades clearly show who paved the way for the terrorists in Africa. The destruction of state institutions in Libya and Iraq as a result of NATO intervention has created a long-term vacuum of power and security which the militants have used. Today, in line with their geopolitical interests, the former metropolises continue to engage in supporting illegal armed formations on the African continent, as well as exploiting local contradictions and socio-economic problems. Stubborn ignorance of these factors in the Secretary-General's profiled analytical materials not only distorts the real picture, but also hinders the development of effective measures. If the real reasons for the instability are not fully explained, the solutions developed will not be effective enough. We strongly condemn the use of terrorism by certain Western countries as a tool of neocolonial policy. The African states have repeatedly stressed that instead of the promised support, they have faced undermining activity. This fact explains well the reasons for the low effectiveness of the so-called multi-year counter-terrorist operations. The slogan of the fight against terrorism served only as a pretext for the continuation of the foreign military presence, which was carried out in line with the interests of the affected states. These approaches are still characteristic of France, The representatives of the governments of the countries of the region regularly share intelligence data that, unfortunately, Paris supports terrorist groups in an attempt to gain control over the former colonies. In this regard, we would like to emphasize once again that international assistance in the sphere of counterterrorism should be carried out strictly at the request of the state. At the same time, specific steps in the framework of the assistance should respect the sovereignty of the requesting state and prevent interference in its internal affairs. We support the decision of the countries of the region to stop the presence of foreign military contingents whose activities do not comply with this principle. This is especially true when, under the pretext of the fight against terrorism, the former colonial powers actually preserved and expanded their military presence, violating the fundamental principles of international law, including the UN Charter. Mr. President, the Kiev regime's actions on the African continent deserve special attention in this context. There are specific facts that clearly indicate that the special services of Ukraine, including the Ministry of Defense, are involved in explosive activities in the Sahel and other regions of Africa. They supply weapons and drones to militants, train them to use them, coordinate the actions of terrorists, including the so-called Islam and Muslim support group in Mali, and transfer trained mercenaries to act against local governments. All of this requires a thorough international investigation with the involvement of the UN's competent mechanisms. Mr. President, in accordance with the UN Security Council Resolution 2734, the Secretary-General's reports on threats from the ISIS should contain specific information on the scale of the threat, the sources of terrorist financing, including illegal trade in artifacts, oil and other natural resources. Unfortunately, this document pays minimal attention to this issue. We cannot ignore the serious problem of weapons being seized by terrorists. The report mentions this issue exclusively in reference to it, but the facts speak for themselves. During the operation to liquidate the ISIS cells, warehouses with Western and Eastern European weapons were repeatedly discovered. Thus, the Western weapons supplied to the corrupt Kiev regime continue to flow into various regions of the world, including the areas of ISIS and Al-Qaeda activity. In addition, there is no information on the specific results achieved in the report on the support of state members from the UN. We cannot consider this as a mechanical listing of events, seminars, projects, and programs. In future documents, we would like to see an emphasis on the results achieved on the ground thanks to the support of the UN.
So, according to this man, they are sending in all these activities, sponsoring people to cause instability against the African right. That this is against the UN and it's against our right as a people. Africans, we have the right to decide what we want to use our resources for. The resources belong to us. It must not be used to benefit other people, like people are claiming that African resources are theirs. That France is doing it wrong. France is the one destabilizing these nations, arming people to cause harm, so that these countries, the leaders, will be overthrown for him to reinstate the puppet leaders that he can maneuver in order to continue to be getting the resources out of these nations. All we need as Africans is unity. It's because we are divided. That is why these people are doing all these things to us. But the most painful aspect is the same Africans that are crying of hunger, of hardship, are the same ones that allow themselves for these people to give us peanuts, for us to continue to destabilize the leaders who are fighting to give us the sovereignty that we are looking for. We are aware that these are the people that are causing this destabilization in Africa because of our resources. Those countries with resources that are at peace, they have leaders who are allowing them to continue to carry the resources out of the continent, and they fight those that are not allowing them. How are these people getting the weapons that they need in order to continue to fight? When they finish, they are the same people who will sit on their media houses to tell us that Africa is not safe. There's terrorist activities. there's instability. But who are those causing the instability in Africa? They are maltreating us because of our resources. We are the ones that can only fight for ourselves. And we can only fight these people when we unite as a people. All that we need is unity. They created this division among us, making us see ourselves as different people. You see your brother in Nigeria, Togo, Benin, South Africa, and you see the person as a foreigner. Because this is the narrative that these people created in our heads. They created the borders, designed colors, and grouped us under. It's high time we do away with these colonial things. When we unite as a people, these people can never defeat us. They are fighting us because of our resources. Our unity is their downfall. This is what they don't want. But we have to rise past that. They will have ECOWAS. We've seen that our all General Assembly Guaita made it clear to us that ECOWAS is still allowed itself to be used against them. But these are the same people who will sit in their meetings and be talking about unity. How can we allow these people to move from the West, come into the continent and be dividing us, even in this 21st century? This revolution will live long to set Africa free. This fight in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso is a fight for all of us. When they stand, we all stand. Our forefathers did well by protecting these resources. They fought. This is the time. You and I, what are we also doing so that the generations that will come will also come and inherit these resources? We are the only ones that can end slavery. We are still not free. Africans are not free from slavery. The chains are taken out of our hands and kept in the mind. Materially, we are rich, but mentally, the African is poor. And we have to work towards that. Let's defeat these people who united and came and divided Africa. They were able to defeat us because they came united. And if we will be able to defeat them, we must also unite, because that is the only time we can defeat these people. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world. And in Russia,